What's up, Buff fans? Troy and I are back with another episode of the C Sports Report podcast. It's certainly been a minute. Life and the off season and our jobs. I think we all have excuses, but we have been very busy with everything. And the Super Bowl was last week. The Eagles won. Thank God the Chiefs did not win. And on the Colorado side, there was a lot of coaching moves. We have some recruiting news. Men's basketball still not doing well from the last time we talked. Very similar story. They're 0-13 in conference play, worst conference start since 1985. So it's tough. Women continuing they're sitting eighth in the Big 12 right now. And yeah, you and I have a lot to catch up on. That's why we had a long briefing period before we hopped on the pod today. So I think we'll get right into the coaching moves. Marshall Faulk, someone that was previously reported to be Colorado's new running backs coach, and they officially hired him. The Buffs made it um, official with Marshall Faulk, a Hall of Famer, third Hall of Famer on the staff, Warren Sapp, and Coach Prime, of course. Brings a lot of experience to this running back room that really struggled in 2023. Just 65.2 rushing yards per game, and in 2024, 68.9 rushing yards per game. Well, 65.2 in 2024, 68.9. Regardless, they were the worst rushing offense both of those years, and they're looking for significant improvement. And now they'll have professional Hall of Famer eyes on a group that really has a lot to work with, has a lot of potential, just needs to be able to unlock it. Former All-American at SDSU, went on to play for the Colts and helped the Rams lead them to a Super Bowl. Very successful career, of course, ended with him being in the Hall of Fame. And I think this is such a important hire that Colorado really needed. And Coach Prime always addresses the needs during the offseason, and this certainly was their biggest needs. Coach Gary Flea-Harrell is no longer with the team, and the co-assistant running backs coach is Tommy Robinson, who was formerly an analyst on the Buff staff last season. So they got more eyes on the running backs room, and this is something that they desperately needed. And I think this will be a really lucrative move for the future and establishing a rushing offense that isn't the worst in the country. When you first saw his name pop up, what was your initial reaction, and what do you like about him for CU?
Well, my initial reaction was that the recruits are gonna love this one. The recruits are gonna love this. That's really the biggest takeaway for me. He's never been a coach before, at least at a high level like this. But obviously, as we've seen with Deion Sanders coaching defensive backs, as we've seen with Warren Sapp coaching the defensive linemen, it turns out, shocker, high school kids would love to come play for Hall of Famers at their position. And I've said on this podcast a couple times, I've written many times that CU, I think, still needs a running back next year. Michael Welch and Isaiah Gustav are good pieces running between the tackles, but I would like them to have a more explosive option. And when that spring transfer window opens up in a couple of months, I think that this hire will help them land that. And obviously, long-term recruiting, it's going to be a great move as well. Kids are going to want to come play. Young running backs are going to want to come play for Marshall Faulk, learn from Marshall Faulk. He's another guy who was on TV, so he's been around football. He was on NFL Network for a while with Dion. So he's been around football forever, and his expertise at the position, not only running, but
Mm-hmm.
Marshall Faulk was all around, catching passes out of the backfield, doing it all at the running back position. And I think that his experience and his knowledge in that will help not only recruiting new running backs, but developing the running backs on the roster and just making that room more formidable as a whole.
I'm interested to see how his collaboration with Pat Shermer goes hand in hand this season and actually committing to the run and building some semblance of a rushing attack. Andre Garode, co-assistant offensive line coach, seems like Colorado is promoting a lot of guys. George Hageman, Gunnar White. There's a lot of co-offensive assistant coaches there. When you look at Andre Garode, this is someone that was just picked up, Dallas Cowboys guy, worked with Deion Sanders back in the day. What do you see from him and this offensive line group as a whole?
Yeah, CU alum, Andre Garrod, played at Colorado from 98 to 01, so before my time, but it's good to get some alum back in the building. And again, it's another NFL guy. This is Deion Sanders has made it clear this is what he wants on his staff. Garrod started 131 games in the NFL, so he has plenty of experience playing the position himself. He coached offensive line in the XFL for two different teams the last couple years, the Houston Roughnecks in 23 and the San Antonio Brahmas in
Hmm.
2024. So he has some coaching experience at a high level, at a professional level, and he should be able to bring, again, this is something we've talked about for years. They have a professional atmosphere. It's a professional kind of run program, a professional staff. That is what Deion Sanders has wanted to build, and Garrod really adds to that, and will bring that to the offensive line that will now, as you mentioned, with Hedgeman and White. There's going to be a lot of really experienced voices in that room coaching this group up, and I think that that is a good thing for them.
I'm just pulling up the scholarship distribution chart. Yeah, there's 13 offensive linemen, brought in a lot of veterans with Zary McGill, Zai Chrysler, Mana Tamani. I think we talked about too what this, if Colorado had to play a game tomorrow, what that offensive line would look like. And I definitely selected guys that have been on the roster, Kareem Harden and Tyler Brown. But I think there's still that final product come fall, what those five guys are going to look like. Of course, Jordan Seaton is going to be there at left tackle. Interesting to see where Philip Houston falls at the tackle position. The guard positions are wide open. The freshman Chauncey Gooden, Carday Smith, Jay Gardenhire. Jay Gardenhire is 6'8". He is huge. There's a lot of opportunity for these guys to take control, and interesting to see what the offensive assistant coaches delegate and place them at, and how Colorado can take the next step in protect the passer, because they're not going to have Shedeur, the scrambler, out in the pocket, but the protection has improved throughout the years. So improvement is ultimately the ultimate goal for that group. Quick note about Damian Lewis. He's expected to be hired by Miami as the defensive line coach. He used to play there, and I think we're seeing with Phil Loadholt and Vincent Dancy guys going back down south to pursue other positions, which is something that Coach Prime talked about at the end of the season, where guys are going to be elevated or they're going to leave, and we're definitely seeing some of that movement now. Really, really excited about this news because you and I have raved about Robert Livingston and the job that he's done in his first year as defensive coordinator. He just signed a 2-year contract, and the deal pays Livingston 1.5 million this upcoming season and 1.6 million 2026, making him one of the highest paid assistant coaches in the Big 12 and the highest paid assistant in CU football history. This was so important for Colorado to establish stability, because throughout the years we've seen this revolving door of assistants and coordinators going in and out, and especially at the coordinator position there wasn't, and at the head coach there wasn't any stability. And now finding a guy that we can get a second year with, a third, a fourth, is so important in developing this defense and allowing Livingston to really build a foundation here and a lot of success for the future. He did such a great job bringing the worst defense in the nation to one of the mid-tier defenses with a great defensive line, a secondary, a linebackers that could hit really hard. It was what you'd want to see from each phase of that defense, and really excited to see Livingston get his work paid for in a very significant dividend. And you can see all this funding coming into Colorado and it paying off in really significant ways. And I think the most important thing here is just stability and building a future with a coordinator that has proven himself to be probably one of the best in the nation. I will say that for him, because it's hard to go in a position like that, first time defensive coordinator. You're working with these tools and resources and allowed to get those kind of resources in the first year. And every year might not look the same, but Livingston certainly proved that he is the one for the position. What do you think of this? And what was your reaction to that news?
Yeah, a formality, right? We know that this team is serious about winning, and if you're serious about winning and you have a great defensive coordinator, you give him a contract extension. You mentioned the stability and the continuity. That was the most impressive part of his season last year for me was the fact that he came in and not only was he a new guy, but he was working with all kinds of new pieces up front in the secondary, bringing Nakai Hill-Green to the linebacker room. You know, they were shuffling pieces around everywhere from the portal, and he was able to piece that group together and have them playing 11 as one. And I'm really looking forward to year two because. So far CU's added some pieces on the interior. They've added some linebackers, and a couple DBs. But if you look at this room, like you got Amari McNeil back up front. On the edge, you get Arden Walker, you get Keaton Wade, you get Okunlola, you get Tajay McCoy back. The whole secondary is back outside of the safeties and Travis Hunter, but the corner room will be the same. DJ McKinney, Preston Hodge, Colton Hood, those guys will all be back year two in the scheme. Even at safety, you lose Shiloh, you lose Cam Stillman Craig, but Carter Stoutmeyer is back. Savion Riley showed some flashes when he was called upon last year. He's back. So they should have a lot of continuity with the scheme and working with Robert Livingston and vice versa. And I think that should really allow him to take some of those base principles that we saw work really well last year and kind of build off that, evolve off that, become a little bit more complex. And this unit should continue to be on the rise as a result.
Hmm. Definitely. I'm excited to see what that looks like this season. Oh my God. This thought that just came to my mind is CU's schedule. CU's schedule came out while we were last week. Three Georgia Tech, Delaware, Wyoming. Wyoming's on my birthday. And then they go into Big 12 play. Let me pull up the schedule. This just like literally just popped into my mind. I don't know how I just like forgot this. You were able to break down the schedule. What do you like in terms of the new looks from this team? They're playing other teams in the Big 12. How do you like the structure of Colorado's upcoming season?
Well, there's no time to ease into it, right? They have Georgia Tech right away, and Georgia Tech's a good football team.
Hmm.
And, kind of the theme of the schedule, I was going through it, is Georgia Tech is one of them. They got a good coach and they have a good quarterback with a lot of experience. Brent Key has these guys playing really good football, especially the end of last year. Haynes King will be back. He'll be one of the best returning QBs in the ACC. So that will be a challenge, a unique challenge for the CU defense. They run the quarterback a lot. They run the ball really, really, really well. So we'll see. Georgia Tech's had some big portal losses this offseason, so we'll see kind of what they're looking like. I do like that they open the Big 12 slate with Houston, which should be on the lighter side. That's sandwiched in between the Delaware and the Wyoming games.
Hmm.
A note on the schedule as a whole, they don't play back-to-back road games, and they have seven home games and five road games, and both the byes are late in the season. All of those are A plus, great for the Buffs. They can kind of rest, recover during those bye weeks, the end of the season, when guys are getting pretty banged up. That's also the tougher part of the schedule, the second half of the schedule. So that will kind of allow them to be a little bit better prepared for those games, having those weeks off. Obviously, getting to play at home a lot is nice. Not having to travel back-to-back weeks is nice. So
Hmm.
I do think that they won in that sense. But again, back to the coaches and the quarterbacks. I mean, BYU, you got Satake and Jake Retzloff. TCU, Josh Hoover will be back. Iowa State, Rocco Becht will be back. Arizona, Noah Fafita will be back. Arizona State, Sam Levitt will be back. Kansas State, Avery Johnson will be back. Like that's a gauntlet of quarterbacks who all were starters last year. A lot of them were very, very good starters. Obviously, Levitt was a stud for Arizona State. Avery Johnson's dynamic. We saw that firsthand in Boulder. Rocco Becht was really good last year. So these guys are going to be it's going to be tough the back half of the
Hmm.
season for CU, but I do think like they get Iowa State at home, they get BYU at home, they get Arizona State at home. I do think that considering obviously no schedule in a Power Four conference is going to be like a breeze, but I
Hmm.
do think that CU should be pretty happy with the way that this played out.
Yeah, his first 7 home game season since Bill McCartney's first team in 1982. Rest in peace, Bill McCartney. This this is probably what Rick George was cooking up, what he maybe envisioned for this school. This definitely provides more income, more ticket sales, allowing a seven home games, and it's helpful for us. Not to be selfish, but it is it's helpful all in a whole having that much of a home advantage throughout the season. Excited to go back to Utah. Utah is a beautiful, beautiful stadium. Never been to Morgantown before, West Virginia, and as you mentioned, just there is a lot of talented quarterbacks, and it'll be interesting to see where CU's at playing Arizona State, who made it to the college football playoff. And I think the Big 12 next year will once again just be a confusing, entertaining round of teams that we don't really necessarily can pinpoint who is going to be in the college football playoff next year. And with the expanded playoff, Colorado could be in that. And yeah, another really fun season ahead. And Colorado will have a rematch with TCU back in Fort Worth. That was also a really fun game. Colorado played in Deion's first game as the head coach. Yeah, Houston shoveled in between Delaware and Wyoming. I guess that'll be a good game to open up the Big 12, reel it back, Wyoming. Um, that'll be I'm really pleased with how this panned out, and not to once again be selfish again, but a home game on my birthday, that's a win. That is a win for me. Um, yeah, the schedule, very exciting. NFL Combine coming up very soon, February 27th through March 2nd. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, LeJontay Wester, Jimmy Horn Jr. have been invited to the Combine. One guy that we did not see, Cam Silman-Craig, not invited. Um, I think LeJontay Wester, really great. Same with Jimmy Horn Jr., really explosive guys that can be, punt returners, work well in special teams, also be the outside guys going one-on-one with corners. They provide a lot, and they can provide a lot for a NFL team. You see the way that Cam played this season and the talk of him at the Shrine Bowl. When you look at his, maybe not him receiving an invitation, do you think he was snubbed in any way? And do you think he'll make it into an NFL team, whether it be on a practice squad or a 53-man roster?
Yeah, he'll be in camp. He'll get his chance. But people, come on, people. What are we doing, people? Turn on the tape. Cam Silman-Craig is an NFL player, people. Turn on the
hmm
tape. You cannot watch CU's defense play for more than a drive without going, dang, number 7 is everywhere. That dude is all over the place. So please, people, I beg you, turn on the tape. He'll get a chance to show out at Pro Day, but I was upset. I was surprised Will Shepherd did not get a combine invite either. That was the other one that surprised me. I was more surprised that Shepherd didn't get one than Silman-Craig, just because Shepherd's measurables are so good at
hmm
receiver. He's just so big and strong. So I was a little bit surprised to see that, but they'll get a chance to show it at Pro Day. They'll be playing in the preseason next year, in camp,
hmm
getting a chance to earn their spot. Um, but yeah, you mentioned it. Obviously, really curious to see how the four guys that you mentioned do. Especially, LeJontay and Jimmy. I can't wait to see what Jimmy runs, first of all. That would
hmm
be great to watch. I'm hoping Travis runs too, because I just want to see Travis statistical athletic profile in a like number form. I just want to see it.
Yeah, he doesn't
Um,
have to do anything, but we'd like to see just like a vertical.
I just want to
Cool, we'll
watch
take it.
Travis run and jump and see what the numbers are,
hmm
purely out of my own curiosity for how obnoxious they would be. Um, we'll see. I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how much Shador does. I'm skeptical on how much he will be participating, because I'm not sure the combine. We'll do a scouting pod at some point
hmm
in the draft, but I'm not sure how much a combine setting helps him in a way, because He's not going to run great. His athletic tests are not going to blow anybody off the page. And his arm strength is not his strength as a thrower. So that's not going to pop off the screen when you're watching him throw one-on-one. So we'll see. Um, I think that game settings are more tilted towards his strengths and as
Mhm.
opposed to like a workout setting like this. So we'll see how we'll see if he throws or if he runs. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what all of those guys do in Indy. And please, people, watch Cam Summan Craig. Please turn on the tape,
Please.
watch. I have this thing. I'm rambling now, but I have this thing in the draft where like I get it. You want big guys and fast guys and strong
Hmm.
guys. Sometimes you just got to turn the game on and go, man, that guy's a good football player.
Hmm.
We should draft that guy. He's really good at football, and that's Cam Summan Craig. If he runs a 40, it's not going to blow you off the screen. If he does his broad jump, it's not going to blow you off the screen. But if you turn on a football game 11 on 11 and strap up the pads, I want Cam Summan Craig on my team, and so should you.
Yep. Tennessee, Cleveland, Giants, New England are the first four picks. So Travis to Tennessee, even though they need a quarterback. I mean, Will
I
Levis isn't doing it for
selfishly
them.
as a Drake May lover and believer, I really want Travis Hunter to go to the
Oh
Patriots.
yeah, I think yeah, a lot of Patriots fans are. Do you think Drake May's their guy though? I know he's
Yes.
young. He is isn't hasn't a
Drake
ton.
May is a superstar. I'm planting my flag. Drake May, super.
Um, Recruiting, just some recruiting notes while we've been away. It's currently the dead period, but Colorado is still on the road visiting guys, planting their seeds with the nation's best young talents. Three-star 2026 quarterback Oscar Rios is taking an official visit to CU on June 20th. Definitely ways away from now, but that visit is scheduled. Uh, Coach Prime talked to five-star linebacker Tyler Atkinson, um, and this was Atkinson's quote on his conversation with Coach Prime. He said, Coach Prime told me the only high school players that he recruits are the real dogs that are ready to play at the next level and serious about their path, like myself. Otherwise, he's recruiting in the portal. Fair. That's probably exactly what Coach Prime said. Yeah, Colorado making an impression with a five-star linebacker. That would be good to secure him. Four-star defensive back Donovan Webb has four upcoming visits. His first was CU. Then he's headed to Ohio State, Michigan, and LSU. His visit with CU is on March 15th, which is coming up soon. The 14th ranked player in the 2027 class, Kenton Dobson the third, has CU on his radar. He's from Miami, plays in Miami, so Miami, of course, is pursuing him pretty heavily and is at the top of his list. But Colorado is making their case along with Auburn, Syracuse, Louisville, FSU, and Florida. CU also getting involved with 2026 four-star running back Caden Jones. Tennessee, Kansas, Louisville, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt are the top five for him, but Colorado, if Colorado were to join that, it would be one of at the top of his list, and he would meet with Pat Shermer, discuss with him, and yeah, four-star running back. Great acquisition if Colorado can get it, even though there's a lot of teams that are ahead of Colorado in that recruitment. Four-star tight end Carson Sneed is currently committed to Tennessee, Tennessee product, but the Buffs left a significant impression on him. He said, everybody was kind of doubting Deion Sanders, but what he's doing with the program, it's in a great place right now. I have a buddy up there, Chauncey Gooden, who plays, and when I talk to him, he has nothing but great things to say about the Colorado program. I talked to the tight ends coach, Brett Bartolone, and coach Darius Dardenbox for 20 minutes the other day, and I feel like they're really solid people, want what's best for me, and want what's best for Colorado too. And he said, even though he's committed to Tennessee, he said, I wouldn't say my recruitment is shut down at all. So those are my recruiting notes. Colorado pursuing a slew of different players, scheduling visits. Interesting to see when they're going to hold Junior Day, when Junior Day is going to be. It was usually around this time last year, but we'll see when that is going to pan out and what that looks like. Yeah, I think we hit all of our football notes. I know I can't even believe I forgot about the football schedule. It's been a long week for me, but I'm not going to get into the the details of what I've been up to the past week, but um, yeah, my biggest takeaway is yeah, Colorado is going to be competing with a lot of talented quarterbacks, and Wyoming's on my birthday still. That'll be a fun one. Get to be around all my colleagues, and it's the best time of year. You can't argue that September isn't the best month of the year. Football starts, the weather's great, and it's just perfect. It's just like the perfect time in Colorado. You have a July birthday. It's kind of hot, but a July birthday can be fun if you're around
I
water.
I'm not a big birthday guy, so
Mm,
like celebrating my birthday. I get to play golf on my birthday basically every year, and that's pretty much all I can ask for with
yeah,
July birthday.
that's what I do too. I
It's good
play
enough
golf
for
with my
me.
dad. Yeah, I need to. I've never cleaned my clubs before. Is that bad? I think I'm just picky.
Yes. Take care of your clubs.
I
Treat your
know.
clubs well, and they will treat you well.
Yeah, they would argue otherwise. Um, men's basketball. I also just came back from Kansas, did an 8.5 hour drive on Monday. Kansas game was on February 11th, which was on Tuesday. I didn't, Colorado was a 17.5 point underdog in that matchup. And of course, it panned out to be so
It
lost
did
70.
cover.
Yeah, they did cover.
Great teams cover, as
71.
they say. Good teams
Yes.
win, great teams cover.
It was, of course, you see a program like Kansas, they're ranked 17th. This was a really formidable matchup. We wanted to go to Kansas, our photographer and I, just to experience the atmosphere, and it was sick. Like, I understand, even on a Tuesday with a winter storm warning against the worst team in the Big 12, that place was packed. And it was so cool being there and experiencing that with, of course, head coach Tad Boyle and assistant coach Danny Manning both being alumni there. And Danny Manning, they showed his retired number up in the rafters. They got a big ovation, and then the game ensued. The closest they got was just a 5 point deficit, and of course, just mistakes in this game-ending scenario where they just have missed opportunities. They're missing that aggression, energy, and as Tad Boyle put it after the game, toughness. He said he wouldn't call them soft, but he wouldn't call them tough. And sometimes those intangibles do make the difference, but you just see it's a similar story with this team over and over of uh they're in that fight, they get a little bit close, and then the other team goes on a run. They're not able to get into the post. I found like they were able to make this run by feeding Elijah Malone a lot, working in the paint, and it's just they have these boosts of energy, and then immediately the wind is taken out of them by a 6-0, 7-0 run, and the game is out of reach, and now they find themselves still winless. And I mean, it's just a continuation of I think you went to the Houston game. You saw that effort. That was probably one of their best efforts they put up since the
Mhm.
Iowa State game.
Totally.
When you watched that game, they were playing at home. What were they missing? What was the result of Colorado losing against number 6 Houston, correct?
Number
Number 5.
5 last week. This week
Yeah.
are they're up to they're down to 6 this week, so they
Oh.
got passed by Florida. Yeah, both of these games really I felt was kind of a similar story in the sense that I thought CU put together two of their best efforts in terms of like not only competitiveness and playing hard, but I thought that they executed pretty well in these games. They turned the ball over 8 times against Kansas. They turned the ball over 12 times, I believe, against Houston, which
Mhm.
against Houston defense, that is just ferocious. 12 times is even Tad after the game said, I usually try for 11 or less, but against Houston, 12 is just fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's great. Um, but the difference is it was kind of inverted in the sense where against Houston, it's so hard to get good shots
Hmm.
in the half court. And, CU wasn't really able to get a ton in transition. So they're working out of the half court. Julian Hammond is just firing bombs from everywhere against Houston, pull up threes, step back
Hmm.
threes. Kelvin Sampson after the game, this was cool. Kelvin Sampson was a great interview after the game.
Hmm.
He said, I didn't really know whether to yell at my guys or to just walk out and give Julian Hammond a high five because he was like, if he's going to make these shots, like, cool, man, go ahead, have fun, knock yourself out. But again, like, that's not a way to live offensively, with your point guard hitting, he can hit 5 3, like tough threes in a game, but can you ask him to hit 12? No, you can't. And at the end of the game, Houston just has more reliable outlets of offense, even for a team where one of their best scorers, Emmanuel Sharp, did not play. Their other best scorer, LJ Cryer, had an off night. He got hurt late in the game. But Houston's able to dump it down into the post to Juwan Roberts, and he's going to get to his left hand every single time, and he is going to make the shot every single time. He finished with 20 points, 9 for 11 shooting. A lot of that came in the second half. He had, I think, 3 buckets in the last couple minutes that were really, really big. And CU just doesn't have that, like they don't have they don't have the identity
Yeah.
on really either end of the floor, but offensively, like who are they when there's not like on the last play of the game, even like when there's 3 minutes left and you're down by four, you need a bucket to stay attached, put some scoreboard pressure on, make it a one score game. They don't have like a rock that they can go to in that situation. And that hurts them because against good teams like Houston, they make it hard on you and then you can't score. And on the other end, Houston does have that, and that's how a 2 point deficit becomes a 10-point loss in the final 4 minutes. Against Kansas, it was Julian Hammond didn't have a very good night. He was only 1 for 7, 2 points. DeJuan Harris, one of the best defensive guards in the country, making it really difficult on him. But it was kind of the same. You kind of saw the same things. Like
Hmm.
Sebi Ronchik had a really, really good game. Elijah Malone only able to play 16 minutes, but he had a nice game. Bang Adak had a nice game. But it's like, can you give like at this point, and we can talk about Ronchik in a minute because I'm very excited about Sebi Ronchik. But right now, can you give Sebi Ronchik the ball 20 times in the second half and say, hey man, you kind of have to carry us here on offense? Probably not. When you get to the other end of the floor, Kansas is going to dump it down to Hunter Dickinson, and he's going to go 8 for 11 with 19 points, and he's going to get 9 rebounds because he's bigger than all of your players.
Hmm.
They're going to get the ball inside to KJ Adams for 10 points. Like they have these easy buttons that they can go to that CU doesn't have, and that's the difference in these games. CU's playing hard, they're competing hard, they're playing better basketball. They're just in a stretch of the schedule right now, which, and we could talk about tomorrow, but the recent stretch of the schedule, Houston and Kansas, playing good basketball is not enough to beat Houston and Kansas because Houston and Kansas are two of the best basketball teams in the country. And CU really just doesn't have the guys to win these games right now, even if they are playing well and they're playing a lot better than they were maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, they're certainly not meeting the mark against these great teams, and they need a lot more. I thought their second half efforts against Kansas, they outscored them 33-31, but as you said, it's those last 3 minutes. Who's going to be that reliable guy? Who's going to be the point person to get those extra buckets, put them in a more productive position to not get beat by a 10 points, 10 points or more day in and day out. And it was just something that was anticipated with this team, but in terms of Sebastian Ronchik, this was career high 19 points, career high 9 rebounds. The freshman really doing
Stud, man.
it all and really doing a
Stud.
fantastic job inside. 7 of 13, hit 1 3, and got to the line and hit 4 of 6. Um, he was excited after the game, despite them losing. He was just there. He said that his team was allowing him to play aggressive basketball. They were providing him with good looks, and he was just doing so much for Colorado about just getting inside, getting into the rim, just allowing, making it a little less difficult for Colorado in a very, very difficult situation. And this is what you want out of your young guys that productiveness. And Tad, was really proud of how he's looked throughout the season. And of course, this was his best night that he's had in his career. So definitely a stepping stone for the future. And I think the biggest conversation after the game in Kansas, just like where the morale is, where the confidence of the team is. And of course, the players, they're going to say that they are confident that they're going to claim another win. And Tad said, I know we're going to get a win. Just when that is going to happen, he is unsure. And we can talk about Sebi. I think UCF this weekend is their best
They're gonna
bet
win.
before
They're
they,
gonna win.
they're
They're
going to
going to
win.
win. They're going to win. I think if they keep playing the way that they've been playing, I think they're going to
Mm-hmm.
win. But they better win because there's really only two winnable games left on the schedule.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is one of them, but the rest of their schedule is not a whole lot of fun. I mean, like they play UCF, they play at Iowa State. Good luck. They play home against Baylor, which is Baylor is their record is not great, but they're getting healthier. They've been really banged up, super talented. Scott Drew usually gets his teams to play well this time of year, and Baylor started to do that, so that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be tough. Home Kansas, that's going to be tough, although the crowd should be good for that one, even though it's 9 p.m. on a
It's
Monday.
sold out.
Sold out, thumbs up. The time of the game, thumbs down.
Sucks. Yeah.
Um, then they're at Kansas State, who might be the hottest team in college basketball right now.
Yep. Took
Kansas
down
State
Kansas.
on fire. Kansas State in the last 2 weeks has beaten Kansas, Arizona, and they beat Iowa State on the road by like 20 points.
Wow.
Then CU plays at Texas Tech, who is also one of the hottest
Uh,
teams in the country.
Double
They
overtime against Arizona State. Won that game by a small
Yes,
margin. Very
super,
best game.
super awesome game. And then they're home to TCU, which is another winnable game. But between tomorrow and that TCU game, it's going to be tough sledding for CU. So if I am confident in them if they can keep up the way that they played the last two games, but they better show up because the opportunities for to get off the pine here, to get out of the skunk, is they are waning quickly.
Getting out of that skunk, man. It's hard.
You can't go 0 and how many games they have left? You can't go 0 and 20. Come on. You can't go 0 and
You
20.
can't.
You gotta win
It
a game.
seems impossible.
You have to win a game.
So they're gonna win this Saturday at the Event Center, 1 p.m.
Yes.
The women
Derek
also
White
play.
is being honored. Derek White
Yes.
is being honored.
Wall of Honor.
They're gonna win.
Yeah.
Trust. That was a good transition. I ruined your transition. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. No, you're good. It's good you mentioned Derek White. I mean, great. One of CU's greats.
But I do well.
Cooking it up with the Celtics up in Boston. Doubleheader Buffs women play Houston February 15th, this Saturday, 6 p.m. at the CU Event Center. The women, as I mentioned, are eighth in the Big 12, just kind of cruising through in the middle of a really talented conference. They're 16 and 8, 7 and 6 in the Big 12. They were pretty banged up against Utah, which resulted in a 77-60 loss, missing Frida Kindle and Sarah Rose Smith, which are their, prominent starters there. And as we've seen with this team, if you're missing Frida, then you are at a significant disadvantage in the front court. A lot of offensive production that you don't have. But despite them on a 2-game losing streak, they did win against Texas Tech, 67-51, against Arizona, 56-47, and then Iowa State was a pretty tough recent loss, 86-56 in Ames, which tough environment. However, just not a good looking product on the floor. At least the Utah game, when we go to recent games, what were your takeaway? I mean, of course, missing your three best players is going to put you at a disadvantage. Utah is definitely not, one of the more productive teams in the Big 12. Could have got a win there, came up short. What do you see from that game, and just your thoughts on how the women are doing right now?
Yeah, it's just tough, with all the injuries that they've had. Frida's been out for 4 games now, so that Iowa State, playing Iowa State, who is a really good team, tournament team, not having Frida, and it's a bad matchup. Sarah gets hurt. She only plays 4 minutes, Sarah Rose Smith. So you have basically nothing on the glass. You're already undersized against a team with Audie Crooks, one of the best bigs in the Big 12. And she showed at 33 points, 12 rebounds, 15 for 20 from the field. That's a, pretty good day at the
Yeah.
office for Audie Crooks, who I'm sure loved seeing CU's undersized front line. And that was a 20-point game at the end of the first quarter. It's just a tough spot, tough matchup, really good team. And then having to play Utah, who's another tournament team without, with not only without Frida Foreman, but without Sarah Rose Smith and without Kendall Wetta, who's dealing with a concussion. That's a tough one on the road too. We know that Salt Lake is a really tough place to play. Gianna Neepkins is a really, really great a guard that Utah has. Um, Coming off of a knee injury from last year. So good to see you're playing good basketball, leading this Utah team back to the NCAA tournament. And it's unfortunate for CU because of the spot that they're in.
Hmm.
They have the injuries, and that kind of robs you of a chance to compete at Utah and try and get a win. And they're in a spot right now where they need some good wins. They're on the bubble, probably the outside of the bubble right now. Um, the Big 12 just isn't it's strong at the top, but the depth of the Big 12 isn't really there. So there's not opportunity after opportunity for CU to kind of bolster
Hmm.
its tournament resume. You look at the next couple of games, like Houston's a must win tomorrow. Houston's 5-19. They're one of the worst teams in the conference. Not sure who they will be getting back for that game. Hopefully, they're starting to get some people back. Frida's still dealing with that foot, who is that was a problem earlier in the year. So that's a troubling sign. But we've talked a lot about how the offense is just untenable without Frida Foreman on the floor. It just is not. They don't shoot the ball and space the floor well enough. And you saw that against a Utah team where CU did shoot the ball well. They shot, Lior Garzon was 3 for 3 from three. Tabitha Betson had a career high 15. She was 3 for 4 from three. The team as a whole was 8 for 16. But there's not the threat level on the court that makes it like the threat level of Frida Foreman on the court opens
Hmm.
things up for everybody else out there. Everybody else can get to the rim easier. Everybody else gets more open looks just because of the gravity that Frida has on the court, being the elite shooter and the great scorer that she is. And you saw in the second half, they only scored 26 points in the second half. Utah really locked it down, was able to kind of pull away in that third quarter and make it um, kind of a formality heading into the fourth. So CU's in an interesting spot. Hopefully they can get healthy.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously have to beat Houston, and then Wednesday is really going to be the big one when Baylor comes to the CU Event Center on Wednesday night. Aaron at Vonleh will be back, so that will be interesting. We'll see what the reception is. They did pretty well against Vonleh the first time. She only had 15 points. CU held their own on the guy. I think Vonleh herself only had 3 rebounds, and CU
Hmm.
was, I think they were about even. CU was maybe -1 on the glass, but that's a chance for a top 25 win, assuming if Baylor stays in the poll next week.
Hmm.
That'll be a chance for a top 25 win at home, which would be huge for this team's tournament resume. They're still going to be undersized against Vonleh, but considering how they played Baylor the last time, I do think that it's an opportunity for a win if they can get healthy. And it's a win that they really, really need because after that, you're looking at a road game against Oklahoma State, which, with how this team has played on the road, is probably a loss right now. Oklahoma State's very, very good, another top 25 team. And then you play Arizona State at home. Arizona State, a win against them is adding basically no value to your tournament resume right now. Another one of the worst teams in the conference. And then at Texas Tech is a tricky road game against a team that's not going to be in the tournament, but is a solid middle of the pack team. So, that game against Texas Tech and this home game against Baylor on Wednesday are really two big ones for CU to kind of get in position before the Big 12 tournament because on the
Hmm.
bubble you never you want to be in a position where you can kind of hold serve in the conference tournament. You don't want to have to chase wins against top teams day after day after day to get in. And so CU really has to do their work early here and get a couple of wins in the next week, get that Baylor win. And if they can get healthy, I think they can, but the injuries are really starting to stack up, and it's hurt them the last two games. And as long as it persists, they don't have the talent nor the continuity to get by with this many injuries. You could do it with one or the other, but when you
Yeah,
are kind of scrapping and clawing talent wise, and you have a bunch of transfers that are still playing year one together, and really your three leaders, your three returners from last year are all out with injury. That's just a really tough task for this team.
definitely missing the offensive firepower for your foreman and the defensive presence of Sarah Rose Smith and Kendall Wetta. Yeah, it's you summarized it beautifully what Colorado needs to finish out the season with and what they're missing in order to achieve those goals. So only let's see, 5 games left before the Big 12 tournament on March 5th to March 10th. And it's a 16-team tournament. Um, we'll see where they end up in the seeding. Everyone's going to play on Tuesday. I don't expect Colorado to be getting a bye of any sort. I imagine they're going to be playing on Tuesday. Similar with the men's, of course, because they are the worst team in the Big 12.
The men will be
And
getting no buys.
yeah, they're actually not playing the tournament. Just kidding. No, they will be.
That's a thing
Um,
in the Big Ten now. In the women's, is it in the men's too? I don't
a
remember.
bye?
No, people don't make the conference tournament.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They mentioned this the
No,
other day.
they're gonna get the 16 seed. That's for sure. How many how many teams are in the Big Ten? 14?
No, it's a lot now. It's a
Oh,
ton.
it's 18. Wow.
Yeah, 18
Yeah,
because
way off.
they added all the Pac-12 teams.
Yeah. Yeah, my off-season brain is certainly cooking right now. I think that is all from us today. It was great to catch up with you. Today's Valentine's Day. Troy and I will be working, not doing anything fun. No one got me flowers. You don't have to get me flowers. Not you, Troy, but anyone who is listening. Uh, I'll be okay. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time for another episode of Ski Sports Pro Podcast. And yeah, have a fun Friday and have a good weekend. And now that the football season's over, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with myself. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of hard thoughts. Will
We
not be
miss
too hard.
ball already. We miss ball.
Yeah. Well, hopefully March is right around the corner, and then I can create a bracket believing that I'm actually gonna win and just watch all these Cinderella teams upset some of the biggest teams in the state. Well, not state, country. Best tournament of the in professional, well, no, professional sports, but all sports. The NCAA March Madness tournament. All right, that's all for me before I say anything else. Peace out, everyone.